The Holy Gospel, according to Matthew, the 25th chapter.
Glory to you, O God.
Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, but 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout. Look! Here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him. Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise replied, No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves. And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came. And those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids also came, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he replied, Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. The gospel of our Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated and let us pray. Good and gracious God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Did you know that until the year 700, there was actually celebrated 7 Sundays in Advent instead of 4? Did you know that? I thought that was really interesting. I think our lectionary sort of follows that. Because here we are on what would have been that first Sunday in Advent in the year 700, and we are hearing a story of waiting. And that is, of course, our theme in Advent. So I almost feel like the next 3 Sundays are like preparation for waiting Sundays. Because in Advent we wait, but here we're like preparing to wait. So that's how I feel about these next 3 Sundays. Because Jesus tells story after story in the next 3 Sundays in chapter 25 about the kingdom of heaven. And he says, curiously, his first story, he says the kingdom of heaven is like a bridegroom who is delayed. And there are 10 bridesmaids who are supposed to be there to illuminate his path to the bride, but also to illuminate him so that the whole people can see him as they're entering the house. But he's delayed. He doesn't come, and he doesn't come, and he doesn't come. Can you imagine? Have you had a moment like that in your life when you were waiting for something, and you were waiting for something, and you were waiting for something, and finally you just got so tired? Maybe you started talking amongst yourselves. We do that every Sunday before worship, right? Or maybe your mind started to drift. Or maybe you started to get sleepy and drowsy too. I know that happens to me a lot. Like when I used to wait for the bus stop a lot, when I was riding the bus a lot, especially in Africa, when I rode the bus. I would either read a book or I'd kind of doze off a little bit. So you can understand why the bridesmaids, not just 5 of them, not just the ones labeled foolish, but all of them fell asleep. They fell asleep. They got tired of waiting. And they just got tired in general. Finally, he comes. Finally, he comes, and it turns out that they weren't actually fully prepared to wait. That they hadn't turned off their lamps because, on the one hand, they were ready. But, bless you, they didn't expect to have an irresponsible bridegroom who would be delayed. And so they didn't have oil for their lamps. 5 of them didn't. Well, I don't know about you, but do you ever wonder, we often will equate following Jesus with being kind to each other. So you would think that part of it would be sharing, right? Is it really true that the other 5 bridesmaids wouldn't have had enough oil if they shared it? What about God's abundance, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But for some reason in Jesus' story, that is not the point. The bridesmaids do not share, and like Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, we have 2 groups of people juxtaposed to each other, compared to one another, the foolish and the wise. And the foolish have to go out back to buy oil, and then when they come back, it's too late. They can't get in. But I wonder what it was like. I wonder what it was like inside that wedding party, inside that house, knowing that your sister, your best friend that you grew up with, was outside begging to come in because she didn't have enough oil, knowing that you could have given her some oil, but you didn't. And now the wedding party is a little bit smaller. The celebration is a little bit lacking. This is kind of a tough story because we wonder, how does this reflect the kingdom of heaven? And I can't help thinking that to me, this reflects earth. It reflects life, doesn't it? Waiting. How much of our lives do we spend waiting? And how hard is the waiting? We're excited for something. We're getting married and we're so excited. Or our daughter or grandchild is getting married. And we buy the presents and we wrap them up and we wait and we're so excited. Or we wait for Christmas and we're excited for Christmas, right? We can't even in our culture, we can't even celebrate Thanksgiving. In fact, I saw Christmas stuff before Halloween. That is more than 2 months, people. I just want to tell everyone that is more than 2 months. That's ridiculous. Our culture does not like to wait. But we also find ourselves waiting for things that make us really high anxiety, right? That make us scared. We get diagnosed. We have a beloved member of our congregation diagnosed with cancer who's waiting. Right? Karen, waiting for her surgery. And we're waiting right there with her, right? And she's staying at home to keep her health strong and good. But she's waiting in limbo. And it's hard. And we wait with her every day. People ask me, how's she doing? What's happening now? We want to rip that thing out of her, right? But we know that we probably shouldn't do it. We should let the surgeons do it. We wait for other things, right? Maybe our health is declining and we're waiting for the next step. Maybe we find that we're in the middle of a move. I wonder in our society, in our nation, if we're not waiting for the next tragedy. Because we had a tragedy, Las Vegas shooting. We had another tragedy, other people got shot. We had another tragedy, other people got shot. That's what happened this summer, right? With the fires and the floods and the floods and the floods. Do you ever feel like you don't ever want to look at the news because you're waiting for what's the next thing? It's really hard, isn't it? And when you're stuck in waiting, it becomes not just high anxiety, but it becomes really discouraging, doesn't it? We become kind of scared about what's going to happen on the news next. We hear a story of women who are coming out saying that a man in power has sexually harassed them. And then we hear another one the next week. And we wonder, well, who's it going to be this week? And who's it going to be the week after that? And your high anxiety turns to discouragement. It turns to dismay. It turns to wanting to lay your head in the sand and like those bridesmaids because you just can't handle anymore. To not even paying attention to what's going on out there and just focusing in on yourself, right? Because maybe that'll be easier. But then when we focus in on ourselves, we think of the things we're waiting for, right? We spend a lot of time in waiting. I imagine you're thinking now of the things that you're waiting for. Right? You're waiting for her to get to the point. Where's the gospel in this? It is a tough one if you think about it. Where is the gospel in the midst of the waiting? Where do you see the gospel in the midst of your waiting? Where is the good news in the midst of the waiting? It's not a rhetorical question.
Good news, Jesus came.
The good news that Jesus came. That's right.
And we're waiting for him again. This is the season of waiting for Christmas.
Right. We're waiting for him again. We've been waiting for 2,000 years. He's definitely delayed. But we also celebrate that he is here, right? Dorothy, what do you...
He's with us.
That he's with us. That Jesus is with us always. You know, that's the thing about this waiting, right? Is we can start to think that God isn't with us in the midst of the waiting. But when we look deeper, we start to see that God is right there, right? When somebody runs into the line of fire to save 30 people, go back and back and back for more, that is God in the midst of the waiting, in the midst of the danger. When you sit down and take a moment out of your busy day to either call Karen or Solway, to call them up or to write them a note, you are telling them, you are surrounding them with God's love while they're waiting, and you're telling them how much you love them. And you're not just telling them that, especially as members of their faith family, you are telling them God is surrounding you too. What we do while we wait matters, and that's what the bridesmaids may have forgotten. They could have prepared when they saw the delay, and they didn't. And that's what Advent is. We are preparing to go into Advent, a time of waiting. But it is not a time to say that God isn't here. It's a time to point out where God is in the world. Because the bridegroom, yes, we are waiting for Christ to come again. We are waiting for a kingdom of justice and peace. We are waiting for healing and wholeness where there will be no more tears and there will be no more sighing. And we are waiting for that here and now. But in the midst of the waiting, we see glimpses of God's presence. We see glimpses of peace. We see glimpses of healing. We see glimpses of love. And we celebrate that our bridegroom, Christ, is with us every step of the way. And that's why we come and we become a part of a faith family. Because when things are tough and you are waiting, whether you are excited and waiting anxiously for something that you're happy about, or whether you are apprehensive and just plain fearful and waiting for the next shoe to drop or waiting for something that you are dreading, you do not wait alone. You wait with your faith family, here to remind you that God waits with you and that God walks with you. And there is amazing goodness and abundance in the midst of that waiting. That God can bring good things in the midst of the waiting. That we can get a little healthier before we have that surgery. That we can determine what we really stand for as a nation when we're faced with times of struggle and trial. Right? The waiting can be a powerful, important time. It is not a useless time. It is an important time. Think of the 9 months that a baby needs to be gestating and growing in the body of a mom, right? Those 9 months are critical, and so is our time of waiting. But remember when you wait that you do not wait alone. Reach out to your faith family and know that God is reaching out to you. And now may the peace of Christ, which surpasses all human understanding, keep your hearts and your minds in this same Christ Jesus, now and